Welcome to episode 26 of Aussies taking over the NBA. It is Friday afternoon. The weekend has landed.
Friday.
And it is the 14th of September. There's just 2 weeks to go until training camp starts up. I'm excited. I'm fired up. We've got a Deng Adel dreams of playing in the NBA episode today. Obviously, it's not a season preview because he hasn't joined an NBA franchise
per se. But pretty exciting news out of the Raptors.
Yes.
As we speak, I think it was brought out yesterday.
This morning, our time. I think he had signed an E10 with Minnesota to go to Minnesota to play in their training camp or train with them in their training camp. But it looks like this morning it was reported that Toronto have signed him to a partially guaranteed deal. So,
which means that if he's waived before the season starts, he still gets G League.
Yeah, I believe.
He's going to be playing in the G League, so he's going to be playing
at least
somewhere in the US this season.
Which is great, which is fantastic for him. I mean, at Minnesota, I think that E10 was a different type of deal, like it was structured differently. There was a chance that he might even been waived straight out of Minnesota's training camp. Like not even
I mean,
picked up.
Who knows what Tom Thibodeau is doing over there. Yeah. That's a bit of a weird situation.
So yeah, I've done a whole bunch of research on the Timberwolves, and it looks like this morning he's going to the Raptors. So, but that's great for him. Like, it's good to see another Aussie making it.
It is. Potentially playing with Kawhi if Kawhi mans up this year and starts. I'm going to call him Princess for the rest of his life.
Princess Kawhi. So just another reminder that you can find all our content on SoundCloud and
YouTube.
Aussies taking over the NBA. Google it, like, share, subscribe. Tell everyone you know. Leave a rating, a review. You can find us on iTunes as well and Podcast Addict, I believe.
I'm sure there's other Android podcast apps, but that's the one we use.
Yeah. And if you're hearing us and you know of any other places where you can put our podcast, then, let us know. Drop us a line and let us know. We're on Twitter at AusNBA Takeover and on Facebook also.
Let's get into it. A bit about Deng Adel. We've done a bit of a kind of preview of him for some of the summer league stuff. Obviously playing for Houston this year, didn't get a start in the early games. Then kind of came on and just shot really well. Very efficient from the 3-point line, but also getting to the rim, and that's what he's kind of made his craft on, is aggressive rim driving.
Yeah, getting to the rim, putting the ball on the floor. So he's a forward. His hometown is listed as Melbourne, Australia, but obviously he was born in South Sudan and fled war-torn South Sudan and moved to Australia pretty early on in his life. I think he was 8 years old in 2004. He's listed at 6'7", 190 pounds, but I read somewhere that I think it was Draft Express that they actually measured him at the draft combine and he was 6'9", which I'm not sure which measurement is right, but that was interesting because we watched Mitch Creek and we noted that he was playing well above his size. Yeah. Whereas with Deng Adel, I felt he almost was playing a little bit under his size. If he's listed at 6'7", it felt like he had more of a guard sort of body rather than your traditional.
It didn't look like a
6'9"
kind of forward.
Did it?
No.
So that was interesting to see that. He went to high school in Australia and then obviously went over to the US to play for Louisville in college in the ACC conference. And then he played in the summer league with the Houston Rockets, which was pretty good for him. But if we go back to his college Louisville highlights, he played 3 years, which I think he had one more year of college that he could have played.
It was just biting to get into the NBA, I think.
I wonder if that was maybe a little bit too early.
I don't know. I think he's a very athletic forward. I think that potentially he has a place to build and to grow. I think he just wanted to get into a professional league and start getting paid,
Mm.
as everyone does. There may be opportunity to go back and finish that college degree. You've spent 3 years there. You want that degree. It helps post life for these guys. But
even for his basketball, though, I feel like maybe one more year in college might have
one more year
progressed.
And knock down the defense, I think.
Yeah.
Defensive things. But hey, he's had interest from a multitude of teams, obviously getting signed Summer League, Timberwolves wanting an E10, and now the Raptors signing him. So obviously they see something in him.
Yeah, definitely. So he's 3 years at college. In the first year, he had an MCL tear and a sidelined him for 6 weeks, and he only managed 8 starts in 22 games. He still averaged 12 minutes and 4 points a game. It's not too bad for your first year in college. He came back in season 2 stronger. He made 30 starts in 32 games, which is great. He averaged 30 minutes per game, 12 points per game, 3.8 rebounds per game, 2.1 assists per game, and shot 42 from the field. That's not too bad.
No.
Pretty solid. Year 3, he had another strong year, 33 starts in 34 games, and he averaged 33 minutes, 15 points, 5.2 rebounds per game, and 2.8 assists per game, and shot 44.8% from the field. So raising his numbers pretty well, not too bad, developing nicely. Louisville, I think, finished 9th in the Atlantic Coast Conference. No, he finished 9th in the Atlantic Coast Conference
for field goal percentage. And he shot just over 50% from 2-point field goal, which he was very, very good in the summer league off the catch and dribble, whether it was driving to the basket or whether, pulling up and shooting sort of isolation shots. I'm not sure if that Houston team were running their main system for their summer league guys. It's all in isolation. I think he showed himself a good ISO player that has the potential to work into a team structure. One thing that probably we both saw in the summer league was his lack of
perimeter defense, mainly.
Obviously, you're playing with guys that are a bit bigger, been in the NBA potentially, or been in other professional leagues around the world, and you're kind of just coming out of college, so you're playing against freshmen, sophomores, things like that. And it's just a different game. It's a more physical game. These guys are bigger, faster, and stronger. So he's probably used to playing more inside. The NBA is all about the 3-point shot. I think there was a lot of attempts in the summer league, and he just didn't quite get to the perimeter when he should have. But I think if you've got the basics, I think he's got the basics covered of defense. And I think perimeter defense can be taught. You look at the guys at Boston, they've kind of made their craft out. Everyone being there has made their craft from perimeter defense. So if that's being taught in the Raptors system, I think that he will do well. He's a physical specimen. He's got an NBA body, straight out.
Yep.
Physically very gifted, tall, long wingspan, and still very young. I think that's what's appealing about these guys. Because, Mitch Creek, didn't get drafted, obviously crafted in the NBL and then got his chance. I'm very surprised Deng Adel didn't get drafted, even in the low. Because you think about that. Most guys who even get picked in the second round don't get an NBA contract. Yet he was well undrafted, not even in the mix, and he's picked up a contract.
Yeah. So
what does that say about what he's about? Is he impressing in a few workouts? How's he getting to these? Because obviously 2 teams have wanted him, E10 with Timberwolves, and now an actual contract with the Raptors. So is he working out well in drafts? What are they seeing him? And I think that's just physicality, shot ability, and ability to score.
Yeah. Well, he does have an NBA body, you're right. I think he's well developed at his size, at whether he's 6'7" or 6'9", he's quite a well developed specimen at 22, quite early on in his career. Maybe the defense can be worked on. It can always be worked on. And obviously, it's something to pick on, because I don't think there was much else in his game where you looked at his game and said, oh, that's a problem there, apart from his defense. But that comes with effort. That comes with, maturity, like IQ and understanding the game. Schematically, you can be put in positions to improve your defense. And, the guys around you are going to be elite players that can also sort of bring the best out of you, whether or not you can play good enough defense. Obviously, these days, the NBA is kind of becoming more defense oriented and not just hustle and not just getting up in people's faces. It's about smartness, being able to sort of block shots on the weak side at the rim, sort of behind players that drive, maybe scramble and get back and get your feet in front of players.
Putting pressure on the 3-point shot.
So with his physicality, I think there's a notch there where he knows he can, put his mark there and say, right, that's one thing I've really got to work on. And I think where I said that maybe it is a little bit too early for him to enter the NBA, the other side of that is NBA teams are going to teach you the best for developing your game. Like, you're going to probably learn more from an NBA franchise and their organization and their staff and their coaches than you are in college anyway. So maybe that
was that next level that he wasn't getting what he needed to in college. Obviously, you can see the improvement throughout the years, and then you go into that next step where it's just full-time basketball, working out, getting better.
So that's where maybe it's a little bit lucky that he's gotten that contract. Which
I don't think it's luck. I think they saw something in him. Obviously, the physicality, the kind of Thonmaker style stretch forward. I think he's obviously not as tall, but he's that physicality, the ability to shoot the 3-ball. 35% from college is not bad. And you know what? That's 35 games a year, 32 games a year. So you're playing more and more games, you're going to get better. So they've seen something that in him, and they've wanted that to build their depth and their ranks. I think that's a real testament to getting the young guys in there.
Yeah, well, the Canadian system has had Thonmaker as well as Matermaker, so I wonder if there's a little bit of connection there. They know about these young guys from, like, these Sudanese Australian guys, so maybe there's a little bit of a connection there. Look, offensively, his game was, I wouldn't say polished, but there's some real raw tools there to work on. Catching and scoring off the dribble was pretty good, and spotting up. He hit, I think he shot pretty well in summer league. I think he, from the 3-point line, 11 of 19.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And it's not a huge volume, but it's knocking down the amount of shots that you get.
We didn't get huge game time either. Last game we did, but good looks and smart looks. It's taking the opportunities when it presents itself. Another thing in some league you have to remember is these guys never played together. They probably get into a 2-week camp beforehand and have got to figure out how to actually switch on D and things like that. So that's always a problem in perimeter defense, is switching and knowing when to switch.
Yeah. So I wonder how that'll translate to NBA sort of, or even NBA G bodies. The G League will be interesting too, because obviously it's not as talented, and as the players aren't as gritty. And
I don't think they're as gritty. I do think the players in the G League have an amazing ability to score. Like when you look at some of the scores, they're NBA. They're 115, 110.
Yep.
I think where they lack in is the defensive sense. They've got that offensive mindset. Some of the big guys are very offensively minded, but it's the lack of defense which probably prevents them from taking that next step into the NBA. And
he has, from that summer league showing, he has an array of moves around the basket. Like a couple of times he'd drive and the 2-foot plant and go up for a shot. Obviously, against those summer league teams, it might be a little bit different to an NBA environment. But in the G League, I think he'll get some opportunities. If he makes the G League, he'll get some opportunities to work on his game, like expand his game. Shooting, I think he's pretty solid. Yeah. Driving to the rim, he's got a nice array of moves. And then obviously the defense he can work on, which is it's a good marker to plant his flag down. So his summer league performances, I think he ended up playing 84 minutes in total, so 16 minutes a game. Not too bad. 6.6 points per game, 1.4 rebounds per game. He wasn't really rebounding at all in that for Houston that I saw. And one other thing I was sort of seeing was he was getting trapped when he was sort of getting back in front of players, like the opposition attacking on a dribble. He was really reluctant to sort of put his arm up and try and block shots. Yeah, which is something that he might have to work on as well, because a system like Toronto is a very all-round system.
Yeah.
Like it needs every player to perform every aspect. Like it's not a specified system drilled down into like a Thibodeau system where it's all about grinding defense, or Utah where getting bodies in the way and making sure you make it as difficult as possible. So he played 22 minutes against the Clippers in Game 3. He had 11 points, 2 assists, 3 steals, a block. Shot 50% from the field and 1 of 1 from 3, which is not too bad. He got to the line 6 times in that game, hit all of his free throws. And then against the Nets, which was his standout game, 28 minutes, 13 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 5 from 8 from the field.
3 from 3 from beyond.
Yeah, so hitting shots a little bit like Xavier Cooks, where when he was on the court, he was knocking down shots, but it wasn't the frequency of shots that he was getting that made him stand out. It was just that he was able to pop up and hit that shot and, make it count, which is another important aspect of developing your talent in the NBA, is arriving at the right moment and being able to impress in that moment, because it's a sign of your maturity too. I mean, coaches obviously look more in depth than fans.
Yeah, I was watching an interesting documentary the other day, and coaches already know the skills that you have. They want to know how good you are as a team player, how good you are in front of the media, how good you are in your personal life, because they don't want anything to blemish. It's not like the NRL here where every other day they're drinking naked or bashing someone. It's really about that whole looking. Are you the right guy for this franchise? Can we put you on a T-shirt and we're going to be cool with that? It's very calculated way of looking at every individual player and making sure that they build that business, because that's what it is. The NBA is a business,
and they do a lot of shaping of their athletes too. Yeah. I mean, you've got to have the clay there to be able to mold it. Like they're not going to spend time on someone who's not going to adapt. I don't think anyway.
No, they don't. And that's why they like young guys and they get them in. I think that's the best thing about what the G League or the D League, as originally was. It's the ability to draft guys that maybe were in that 70 to 80 range. The best ones, or even in the low, the second round of the draft, and really get them, up to scratch and potentially up into the system. I think the best example of that is Robert Covington.
Yep.
He was an undrafted. He wasn't a college player. He was undrafted. Started off in the G League, earning I think $40,000 a year. I think it was the lowest contract, and now, one of Philly's big defensive stores. And second, I think he made second team all defensive.
Not sure.
Yeah.
But he went on a tear at the start of the season, like knocking down threes.
But it's and that's when everyone says it wasn't, he didn't play too well in terms of scoring points, but his defense is second to none. Block shots, tips, steals,
deflections and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's amazing, and that's why he's in the team. And that's something that can't be taught. That's just instinct.
So, that loss, their final game, they lost to the Cavs. I think he got the start at power forward in that game. He played 32 minutes. Not his best game. 32 minutes, 9 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal. Makes sense playing power forward. I still don't think he's a forward. I think he's more of if he's going to play small forward, more like a guard.
He's a shooting guard more than a...
I think he's got more of a guard's body. Like, he just doesn't seem... Like, we really marveled at Mitch Creek and went, wow, like, he's playing way above his station here. Like, this is a really mature sort of player playing well above his size. Whereas Deng Adel, I felt like, after I saw that he was 6'7", I went, he didn't really play like a 6'7" monster. No,
he's very nimble, very quick.
Yeah.
And that's why you would think probably he could potentially... but this is the blinding aspect of the NBA today, when most of your point guards are 6'6" to 6'10". And what really is a forward? What really is a guard anymore? It's someone who's good in the position. It doesn't really matter. When your point can defend the 5 or your point can defend to the 4, what is a what is a small forward? Is it
Yeah.
relevant anymore?
Mm.
Or is that position becoming more of that shooting rather than that down low grit kind of post moves?
It's becoming like a versatility role. It needs to be strong enough to defend inside and at the same time be able to stretch the floor and shoot from the outside, which is not easy. Like, you don't get a lot of those players in the league at all. So I just wonder how sustainable some of these new trends seem to be happening, like the giant point guard. I wonder how really sort of sustainable that sort of role is, and whether sort of the pendulum will swing back to more conventional, small, big pick and roll type stuff. Because it goes in fits and spurts. Like, you look at the Warriors, and the Warriors aren't just a shooting team. It's like their offense is born out of how good the defense is performing. Yeah. And it's something that goes kind of a little bit over the head of people, that their system isn't just shooting. Whereas you saw Houston really went overboard on the shooting, like putting up 53s a game. Like, that's just crazy. To me, that's a crazy amount of threes to be shooting. You kind of need the versatility to know when to stop shooting threes and just get the ball and stuff it through the hoop, which that's when, the pendulum will swing back to we small forwards, that versatile player again. So I wonder, play at 6'7" to 6'9" sort of guards are important, but when does the spacing become an issue too? When do you start seeing that these guys aren't as great handlers? Like, they're not fantastic handlers of the ball, and if they can't, get into the space because of their size, then obviously you got to sort of start bringing them down and start working on their handles a little bit more, and there's less space for them to work with. So that's where maybe Deng can fit in a little bit better, because he was quite solid at those fundamentals, putting the ball on the floor and sort of getting to the spot, around the painted area and rising up and shooting. Obviously, in the NBA, he's not going to get all of those chances. Like, there's going to be some big bodies in there and some men that he's going to have to bounce off, because some of his sort of drive and post, his hesitation pull up and his 2-foot plant and pull up felt almost a little bit like LeBron James. Obviously not as good, but some of those moves he had were smooth and sort of just reminded me a little bit of LeBron and how he's really developed his finishing around the rim over the last few years. So I wonder if that'll be a very sort of like a string for his bow, that a team will use him to sort of catch on the perimeter and knock down a shot, or if there's a closeout coming, he'll be able to put the ball on the floor and create something in the lane. So I think that'll be really important if he develops that in the G League, or if he, if he does sign, if he gets the chance.
Get some trash minutes happening in the first year.
I think he can really develop that.
Well, the Raptors need something. I think they need something different from the last few years. Obviously, Kawhi should be their savior. Should be.
The Raptors are going through a pretty big gravitational shift now. So I wonder how long they'll wait. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like they're trimming the hedges a little bit. They've gone for a pretty big remove the coach who was coach of the year, trade, or involve players in a trade, like a big gravitational trade. I wonder whether they go through this year with Kawhi and just blow it up. Like, blow it up. Don't worry about it. We'll start again.
But this is the problem. They can't tank. And the reason they can't tank is they've still got enough good players to easily make the playoffs.
And they're
even
in the East.
Without Kawhi. In such a weak division as the Eastern Conference, easily make the playoffs.
Yep.
So it's not a tanking. It can't be a tanking system. It has to be, all right, we need some fresh players. We need some young players to come up through the ranks and play the similar style of ball that we always have. Potentially like DeMar DeRozan, or, there's no other Kawhi, but if he's really not into it this year, I still see them making the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely.
But they're just going to be that hovering team then. And so...
And I wonder how long that delays their, the crucialness of their rebuild. I wonder how long that's going to delay it. I mean,
it was a big call to get someone who's very disjointed with the system of the NBA and knock out a player who has been your leading scorer forever.
And your franchise cornerstone. All on a year, like all on a whim that he's going to re-sign and want to stay in Toronto. It still doesn't make sense. Well, I wonder how much of the guts of their franchise kind of got sucked out with Casey. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like maybe that created a gravitational situation that sucked all of these things out of their system. Like obviously they made that trade. It's a 1-year thing. Who knows how Kawhi will be? He might not even play a game at all this season. His quad might still be cactus. Who knows? He might come back and have an all NBA year and be Defensive Player of the Year and maybe even win MVP. Like you don't know MVP. Like it's like some of these things are so gravitational that it doesn't matter what's happening around them. Like it doesn't matter because you've just changed you've just taken away your franchise cornerstone, the face of your franchise. And you're rolling the dice on Kawhi Leonard, who I hope he has a good year. Like I still think he's a great player to watch, and a player that can do a lot for their franchise to cement himself and stay at their franchise as well.
Yeah,
I don't know if he really wants to do that, but I think there's a carrot there for him to work for. Like there's something there for him to work. Yeah. It's not like he's changing franchises for absolutely no reason, and he doesn't care. He just wants the money. I think he himself has a legacy to rebuild, which might help Toronto in there.
It will. He's just about mindset with him. If he's not there, he's not there.
So I did all this research on Minnesota.
The Timberwolves.
The Timberwolves. They've just signed Luol Deng as well, which is...
Vetmin?
I'm not sure. I didn't check what contract he was on, but I think he gave up about $7 million to leave the Lakers.
Yeah, he did. But his Lakers contract was absurd for one game.
Yeah, I think he only played one game, did he?
He played one game. I think it was a 3-year, $72 million deal. And he had to give up $7 million of that, and they stretched the rest, I think. So
yeah, I haven't even looked at their roster and looked at their moves that they made besides that Kawhi Leonard. And obviously we're going to talk a little bit more about Kawhi Leonard when we do the Patty Mills Spurs wrap up, season preview, sorry. But looking at their roster, Danny Green can shoot from the outside. Serge Ibaka can stretch the floor a little bit. But beyond that, I don't know if there's enough real meat on their bones.
Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, I mean, he's 32. He now becomes sort of their franchise player.
He's their franchise player.
JV Valanciunas, I mean, solid enough center. He's added the 3 to his game. Fred VanVleet, not too bad. CJ Miles. In regards to Deng Adel pushing onto this team, I don't know if there's going to be any room for a player like him.
I don't know, but they do not have a lot of 3-point options right there.
No.
And if Adele is that, they're thinking that he's that option. And they're bringing in this team to develop him into that guard/forward to shoot the 3.
Because he almost is a little bit like DeRozan, like a little bit.
He's a tiny bit like DeRozan.
Very, very handy scorer in isolation and a crafty mover.
Yeah.
Obviously, not as good as DeRozan.
But 21 and not played a hell of a lot but basketball really in his life.
Deng Adel.
Started at 14. Most of these guys have been playing basketball their whole lives. And, played a total of 67 games in college. You play 1 year in the NBA and you're going to get more experience than you've had in your whole life.
Yeah. And even if you go into the G League, that's even good.
It's still great.
Yeah, that's great as well. You're going to develop.
That's on par with Europe.
In a world-class system. I mean, I think it's probably better than Europe, really. In terms of being around the franchise structure and the coaching and just getting the experience of being around an NBA franchise, even though you're not at the NBA part of the franchise, is still important. I think his salary. I think there's a certain level of salary you have to have.
If it's guaranteed,
Yeah.
If he gets guaranteed, it's $500,000, 512,000, I think, for an undrafted. If it's not partially guaranteed, I think he gets paid the wage up until December, and then it turns into a G League contract, which I think the max G League contract $400,000 a year, and that's for like star G League players.
Yeah.
So it could be anywhere in there. We don't really know.
And I think there's a certain amount of partially guaranteed money that means you can jump back and forward. I think you can.
It's like a two-way contract where you can jump up into the NBA. You get paid per game on top. It's such a convoluted system.
So convoluted trying to understand it.
Far out.
But it looks like they only have one two-way player, which is Chris Boucher. He was formerly on the Warriors. So that's interesting. Maybe snatching that two-way would be very interesting, depending on how much faith they have in him or what they see in him. So, we're going to wish him luck, because there's a few guys that are really going to play their hearts out for that contract or a G League contract.
Yeah.
Which is
he's got the G League. He's going to play in the G League this year. 12 months. He's guaranteed this season. So we will obviously bring you updates if he doesn't get into the NBA.
Yeah.
We'll keep talking about, his G League activities. We'll link some stuff, some highlights. I'm sure someone will put up the highlight reel from the old G League. So, yeah.
Yeah. So what do you, obviously taking away the defense, what do you think he needs to work on if he's going to make it into the NBA?
Look, I think it's just being part of a franchise. It's understanding your place on the court, but it's also understanding the franchise's place for you on the court. I think you can always think of yourself as a certain player, but maybe they want him for a different thing. And so he could potentially end up being a guard. Obviously, he's a guard. He's slightly oversized, good athleticism, and can shoot the three. And he's got a bit of ISO capabilities. That's a nice thing. So I would like to see him in a more versatile role, switching out of that 3 and 4, and see what comes of it.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. I don't think he can handle the ball in a creative sense. Like whether they're going to give him, if he does play in the G League, whether they're going to give him the ball and say to him, like, make something happen. But at the same time, like watching his college highlights and watching the summer league, I felt like he was a good fit guy, or fit him into Houston. Just fitting him into an offense. It looked like he kind of had the IQ to understand where to be on the court, where to be in the right time, when to put the ball on the floor and drive, when to shoot the three. I was actually surprised that maybe he didn't get picked up by Houston. Houston have a few little roster issues that they're sort of sorting out. But I do think, the defense, like it's hard to go past. Like I said, beside the defense, it's still hard to go past. That's something he really needs to work on.
Yeah.
Without sort of harping on a little bit about it. It will be a big thing if he can, bulk up, get into the stance, and really start to get in front of people and stop them from driving to the rim. I think, his ability and his versatility to fit in on offense, that's going to really give him a big boost and give his NBA chances a really big boost.
Indeed.
So, I think that's about it.
That's a wrap?
Yep. This was the first of a triple header that we're recording the Savo, so we're going to work on Patty Mills next, and then the Milwaukee Bucks. So, some Thonotron. Yeah, and Patty Mills. Another big year for them, and the Spurs, another big...
in a very jam-packed environment.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, we'll come back to you with Patty Mills.
Yep.
And some Bucks info, and we'll see you soon. But remember, like, subscribe, follow, YouTube,
share. Let us know what you think.
Tweet.
And we'll probably come back and we'll give you some updates on Deng Adel as training camp goes through as well.
Yeah,
because I think he has a chance to sort of sneak onto that two-way spot. So yeah, that'd be fantastic. If he
I think
does.
we'll see him.
Another guy.
I think we'll see him at some point this year playing for the Raptors.
If he does end up playing in the G League, we'll probably end up covering him a little bit as well, and make sure we keep everyone updated on what he's doing.
Indeed. All right, guys. Also, if you're a Kings fan,
yes,
on the Kings Dime, our brand new podcast looking at the Sydney Kings. We're also going to have a bit of a Boomers special edition come Monday.
Yep.
Looking at the fourth window of games in the FIBA World Cup qualifying.
Yeah. So second round or something.
Yeah, it's second round, fourth window. Yeah. And they're playing.
They played Qatar
and Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan on Monday. Yeah.
Kazakhstan, greatest.
Yeah, so if you're into the Kings, obviously no NBA players in that Boomers. So.
No, and a few band players obviously coming out of the Philippines.
Yeah.
Philippines game, so no Chris Goulding, no Dan Kickett.
No Thonmaker either.
Well, yeah, so
it's
going to be a bit shitty if we want Thon to play in the World Cup next year and he's still got to serve those game bans.
But I think there's enough lead-up games, isn't there?
No. You got to be picked.
Nah, I think you just missed 3 games, don't you?
Yeah, but you're still going to be officially picked for those games. So if you say you're unavailable, that's not a pick.
Yeah, but can't you just go, pick me? Oh, wait, I can't make the game.
Anyway, hopefully it'll be. But we'll bring you that on the King's Dime because there's no NBA players in it. So we'll see you very soon.
No worries. See you, peeps.
Peace.